Hello, I'm V C Pramod. Welcome to our studios at Limeroad. I'm going to take you through the entire process we follow here to photograph apparels on a dress form or a model. As we all know, the most important thing in photography is light, and controlling it is an essential skill for any photographer. So let's take a look at the lighting setup we have for our apparel shoot. We're doing a 3-light setup with FRX 400s. So I have one key light, one fill light, and one light for the backdrop. My key light is the Octa softbox set to 5. This covers a large cross-section of my lighting setup and produces very soft and natural-looking highlights and shadows on the product. This is placed on a boom stand 7 feet high in a straight line from the product, but tilted at approximately 30 degrees downward angle towards the product. The distance in our studio from the key light to the product is approximately 8 feet. My fill light is the square softbox set to 2.5. I've placed the light at a 45-degree angle to the product. This helps to make the light fall parallelly or at an angle on the product, helping it to feather out the light, making the product look more real. In our studio, the distance from the square softbox to the product is approximately 5 feet. My background light is the strip softbox set to 2.5. I've placed the light at a 45-degree angle so that it covers an area just behind the mid-center of the dress form, providing a nice gradient lighting to the backdrop. This helps provide a separation between the product and the backdrop, giving the product a nice 3-dimensional feel. The light is placed at about 2 feet from the backdrop, which, as you can see, is a Savage backdrop, grey, 9 feet wide by 36 feet long. Now that we have the lights in place, let's see the kind of equipment we use to get that perfect shot. First and foremost, the camera. Here at Limeroad, we're using a Nikon D810, which is a 36.3 megapixel FX CMOS full-frame sensor. We've teamed it up with a 105mm f2.8 AFS VR ED macro lens. When photographing apparels on a dress form or a model, an 85mm to a 105mm is ideally recommended, because with a lens of that focal length, the distance from the camera to the product is approximately 15 feet, and this lends itself to a very nice depth of field of about 2 feet, which extends from about 6 inches from the front of the product to 6 inches behind the product, making the product look natural to the human eye. Now that we have our lights and cameras all set, let's understand how to take an exposure reading to determine the ISO, shutter speed and aperture. Our default setting for ISO is 100 and shutter speed is 1/125. In apparel photography, typically we do what is known as ratio lighting. So we have to ensure that we get the same reading on 4 different points on the product. For that, we're using a Sekonic L358 exposure meter. I'm going to show you how we take the reading in our studios at Limeroad. Now that we have the ISO and shutter speed set, we'll use the exposure meter to determine the exact aperture we need to shoot on. For that, we use 4 reference points on the product. Which in this case is f9. Another very important but usually ignored element in photography is white balance. The color of the light will affect the colors in your photograph. You probably won't notice this with the naked eye, because our minds adapt very quickly to perceive the color of the light. But cameras are less forgiving and record colors exactly as they are. This makes the color of the product appear of a different hue or tint when viewed on the computer monitor as compared to when we see it physically in daylight. We at Limeroad have pretty much nailed this issue by using this very important and must-have equipment called the Expo Disc White Balance Filter. This is the most foolproof way to enjoy consistent and in-camera white balance and color correction, and the only way you can calibrate your camera to the temperature of the light itself and not the light bouncing off from the subject or the surroundings. To achieve this, you'll need to put the camera where the subject is and point it back to the position you'll be shooting from. Put the white balance cap on, aim at the location you'll be shooting from and take your reference photo. This reference photo will tell the camera what neutral color looks like with the exact lighting conditions you're working under. We can store this data in white balance custom preset. Now that we have the lights and cameras all set, let's have a quick recap. The camera, a full frame, preferably over 25 megapixels. The lens, any lens with a focal length of 85 to 105 mm works best for shooting apparels. The distance from the camera to the product, approximately 15 feet. The distance from the product to the backdrop, approximately 3 feet. I have a 3-light setup. My key light is the octa, set to 5. It's at a distance of approximately 8 feet from the product. My fill light is the square softbox, set to 2.5. The distance is approximately 5 feet from the product. I have one strip light for the backdrop. It's at a distance of about 2 feet from the backdrop and it's set to 2.5. Now that we have all parameters in place, I think we're ready to get that perfect shot.